I'm sitting here at 87 years old, and my hands are shaking as I tell you this, not from age, not from sickness, from the weight of 43 years of silence. Last month, I finally told my wife the truth. And when I saw her face, when I saw what those 4 decades of lies had done to the woman I love most in this world, I understood that some secrets don't protect the people we love. They slowly poison everything beautiful we've built together. My name is Thomas. I've been married to Margaret for 61 years. We have 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and a life that anyone looking from the outside would call blessed. And it is blessed. But for 43 years, there was something broken at the foundation of everything we built. A crack I covered up. A lie I told myself was loving, when really, it was just cowardice. This is the story of the biggest mistake of my life. And if you're keeping secrets from someone you love, believing you're protecting them, please listen to what happened to me. Because some mistakes you can't undo. You can only learn to carry them. I need to take you back to 1981. I was 44 years old. Margaret was 42. We'd been married for 18 years. Good years. The kind where you finish each other's sentences and know exactly how the other takes their coffee. We had 3 beautiful children. Robert was 16. Elizabeth was 13. And little Samuel was 9. I worked as an accountant at a manufacturing company. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was steady. It paid the bills. It gave us a comfortable life in our small house with the blue shutters that Margaret had always wanted. Margaret stayed home with the children. She'd been a teacher before we married, brilliant with numbers and words. But back then, that's what you did. The wife stayed home, and she never complained. Not once. She made that house a home. She made our children kind, thoughtful people. She made me better than I deserved to be. We weren't rich, but we were happy. At least, I thought we were. In March of 1981, my company hired a new secretary. Her name was Diana. I need you to understand something right now. This isn't a story about an affair. I never touched Diana. I never kissed her. I never even told her I had feelings for her. But what happened was, in some ways, worse than an affair. Because I let myself feel something I had no right to feel. Diana was 28 years old, recently divorced, with a laugh that could light up our grey office like sunshine breaking through clouds. She was smart, quick with words, always had a book tucked in her purse. She'd talk about poetry and philosophy during lunch breaks, things I'd forgotten I was interested in. And slowly, over months, I started to feel awake. You have to understand, I loved Margaret. I loved our life. But somewhere in those 18 years of marriage, of bills and children's dentist appointments, and fixing the water heater, I'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone look at me, like I was interesting, like I had thoughts worth hearing. Margaret and we'd fallen into a routine. We talked about the kids, about groceries, about whether we needed to repaint the garage. But we didn't talk about ideas anymore, about dreams, about who we were becoming as people. Diana asked me about my thoughts, about what I believed, about what scared me and what made me feel alive. And God forgive me, I started living for those conversations. I never acted on it. I want to be clear about that. I never asked Diana to dinner, never sent her inappropriate letters, never even told her that sometimes, when I drove home from work, I had to sit in the driveway for 10 minutes to prepare myself to walk back into my real life. But I thought about her constantly. I compared Margaret to her. I'd come home and notice that Margaret's hair was graying, that she'd gained weight after 3 children, that she talked about things I found boring. I'd see Diana's youth and energy and think terrible thoughts about the woman who'd given me everything. And then, in September of 1981, everything changed. Margaret's mother had a stroke. It was serious. Her mother lived 3 states away, and Margaret needed to go care for her. The doctors said it would be at least 6 weeks, maybe more. I don't want to leave you and the children, Margaret said, crying in our bedroom the night before she left. But she needs me, Tom. She's all alone. We'll be fine, I told her, holding her close. Robert's old enough to help with his brothers. We'll manage. You take care of your mother. She looked up at me with those eyes that had trusted me for 18 years. I love you so much. I don't know what I'd do without you. I kissed her forehead. I love you too. And I meant it, I did. But when she left the next morning, when I watched her car disappear down the street, I felt something I'm ashamed to admit. Relief. For 6 weeks, I lived a different life. I worked longer hours, staying late at the office where Diana was. We'd talk after everyone else left. About books, about music, about life. Nothing physical. Nothing I could point to and say, this is wrong. But it was wrong. Because I was giving her the parts of myself that belonged to Margaret. I'd come home to my sons, and we'd eat frozen dinners and watch television. I'd help with homework. I'd make sure they brushed their teeth, but I was going through the motions. My mind was somewhere else, Robert noticed. He was 16, old enough to see things. Dad, are you okay? He asked me one night. Fine, son. Just tired from work. He looked at me for a long moment. Mom called earlier. She said Grandma's doing better. She'll probably be home in 2 weeks. I nodded. That's good news. But inside, I felt something close to dread. Margaret came home on a Wednesday afternoon in late October. She looked exhausted. Her mother had recovered. But those 6 weeks had aged Margaret. There were new lines around her eyes. Her shoulders sagged with tiredness. The boys rushed to hug her. They'd missed their mother terribly. I hugged her too. Welcome home, I said. She held me tight. I missed you so much. I missed our life. The whole time I was gone, all I could think about was getting back to you and the boys. You're my whole world, Tom. And standing there in our living room, holding my wife while my heart was somewhere else, I made a decision. I decided not to tell her. What was there to tell? I reasoned with myself. Nothing happened. I never touched Diana. I never betrayed our marriage vows. It was just feelings, thoughts, a connection that didn't mean anything real. Telling Margaret would only hurt her. It would break her heart over something that was already over. Because I was going to end it. I was going to stop having those long conversations with Diana. I was going to be a good husband again. What Margaret didn't know couldn't hurt her. That's what I told myself. And that decision, that moment of choosing silence over honesty, that's where I planted the seed that would slowly poison the next 43 years of our marriage. I did pull back from Diana. I stopped staying late at the office, kept our conversations professional. After a few months, she moved to a different company. I never saw her again, and I threw myself into being a better husband. I helped more around the house, planned date nights, bought Margaret flowers, listened when she talked about her day, all the things a good husband should do. But there was always this distance. Margaret felt it. I know she did. "Tom, are you happy?" she'd ask me sometimes late at night. "Of course," I'd say. "Why would you ask that?" "I don't know. You seem far away sometimes, like you're somewhere else. Just work stress. Nothing to worry about." And she'd accept it, because Margaret trusted me completely. That was the worst part. Her trust. Years passed. Our children grew up. Robert went to college, became an engineer, got married. Elizabeth became a nurse, gave us our first grandchildren. Samuel studied music, something I'd once loved but given up on. Margaret and I grew older together. We celebrated anniversaries, took trips, became grandparents together, and every single day I carried this secret. It changed shape over the years. Sometimes I barely thought about it. Weeks would go by where it felt like ancient history, something that didn't matter anymore. But other times it would surface, when Margaret and I fought about something small, and I'd think, if she knew the truth, she wouldn't trust me to be right about anything. When she'd tell friends, "Tom and I have always been completely honest with each other," and I'd feel this twist in my chest. When our children would ask us for marriage advice, and Margaret would say, "Honesty is everything. Never keep secrets." The guilt never fully left. It just buried itself deeper. About 10 years ago, when I was 77, we were at our granddaughter's wedding. It was beautiful. Emily looked radiant in her white dress. The young man she was marrying clearly adored her. During the ceremony, they exchanged vows they'd written themselves. "I promise to give you my whole heart," Emily said, tears streaming down her face. "To never hide from you, even when the truth is hard. To build our life on honesty and trust." I looked at Margaret beside me. She was crying too, happy tears. She reached over and squeezed my hand, the way she'd done 10,000 times before. And I felt like a fraud. "Please, if you're keeping something from someone you love, learn from my mistake. Don't wait until you're 87 to tell the truth. Don't wait until you've wasted decades living behind a wall of your own creation. Tell them now, while you still have time to rebuild, while you still have years ahead to create real, complete intimacy. Yes, it might be hurt. Yes, it might be hard. But secrets don't fade with time. They grow heavier. They dig themselves deeper. And the pain of honesty, as bad as it is is nothing compared to the pain of discovering you've been living a partial truth for decades. Margaret said something to me yesterday that I keep thinking about. We were sitting on our porch, watching the sunset. It's become our routine these last few months. We sit together, not always talking, just being present. I wish you told me earlier, she said quietly. Not because it wouldn't have hurt, but because we would have had time to heal completely. Time to rebuild what we had before. She looked at me, and there were tears in her eyes. Now, we're running out of time, and I'm going to die not fully trusting the man I spent my whole life with. That's what hurts most, Tom. Not what you did, but that you took away our chance to fully heal from it. I had no response. Because she was right. I'm telling you this story because I don't want you to make my mistake. I don't want you to reach 87 years old and realize you've spent half your life living a lie. I don't want you to finally tell the truth and see the person you love look at you like they don't know who you are. I don't want you to waste precious years you could spend in complete, honest intimacy, hiding behind a wall of silence. Whatever you're keeping secret, it's not protecting anyone, it's just getting heavier. Tell the truth. Face the consequences. Do the hard work of rebuilding trust. Do it now, while you still have time, because I promise you, the regret of waiting is worse than the pain of honesty. Margaret and I are going to be okay. We're working through this together. We're learning to trust again, even though it's harder than it should be. But we would be more than okay if I'd had the courage to be honest 43 years ago. We would be completely, fully, deeply okay. Instead, we're spending our last years patching cracks that never needed to be there. Don't do what I did. Don't let fear of short-term pain create long-term damage. Don't build your life with the person you love on a foundation that's partially false. Tell the truth. Always tell the truth. Because secrets don't protect love. They slowly, quietly suffocate it. I'm 87 years old. I've lived a long life. A mostly good life. But my greatest regret, the thing I'll carry with me to my grave, is those 43 years of silence. Those 43 years when I chose comfort over honesty. When I chose protecting myself over truly loving my wife. Margaret deserved better. And if you're keeping secrets from someone you love, they deserve better too. Tell them, before it's too late. Before you run out of time to rebuild. Before you spend your final years regretting all the years you wasted living a lie. Tell them now. Tell them the truth. And give yourselves the gift of complete, honest, real love. Before it's too late. That was 2 months ago. We're still together. We're trying to work through it. Margaret decided she wanted to try to rebuild our trust. Not because she's weak, but because she's strong. Because after 61 years of marriage, she believes there's something worth fighting for. But it's hard, so much harder than if I'd told her the truth in 1981. Back then, we were young. We had decades ahead of us. We could have gone to counseling, worked through it, rebuilt our trust over time. Now, at 87 and 75, we don't have decades, We might have a few years, maybe less. And Margaret has to spend those years dealing with a betrayal from 43 years ago, instead of enjoying our last years together in peace. She's processing this hurt, learning to trust me again, wondering what else I might have hidden. I forgive you, she told me last week, but I don't know if I'll ever trust you the same way again. And that's something we both have to live with. I want to tell you what I've learned from this. Because if you're reading this, if you're listening to this, maybe you're keeping a secret too. Maybe you've convinced yourself, like I did, that silence is kindness. That what your spouse doesn't know can't hurt them. Let me tell you what I learned too late. Secrets don't protect people. They poison them. When you keep a truth from someone you love, you're not sparing them pain. You're taking away their right to make informed decisions about their own life. You're building your relationship on a foundation that's partially false. And no matter how careful you are, they can feel it. That wall between you. That thing you're not saying. Margaret felt it for 43 years. She just didn't know what it was. I thought I was being kind by staying silent. But real kindness is honesty, even when it's hard. Real love is trusting the other person with the truth, trusting them to be strong enough to handle it. By keeping my secret, I was actually being selfish. I was protecting my own comfort, my own image, my own fear of consequences. And I robbed both of us of 4 decades of real, complete intimacy. Because you can't be truly intimate with someone when you're hiding something. There's always that wall, always that part of you that's holding back. I thought the distance between us was the necessary cost of protecting Margaret from pain. But the distance was the pain. It was there all along. I just couldn't see it. Here's what else I learned. The longer you keep a secret, the harder it gets to tell. At first, I could have said, Margaret, I need to talk to you about something that happened while you were caring for your mother. It would have been hard, but manageable. After a year, it became, Margaret, I need to tell you about something that happened, and also about the fact that I've been keeping it from you for a year. After 10 years, 20 years, 43 years, the secret grows layers. It's not just the original truth anymore. It's the truth plus decades of deception. It's the weight of 10,000 moments when you could have been honest and chose not to be. If you're keeping something from someone you love, please tell them now, not next year, not when the time is right, not when you've figured out the perfect way to say it, now. Because every day you wait makes it harder. Every day adds weight to the secret. And if you can't tell them, if you're absolutely certain that telling them would cause more harm than good, then you need to ask yourself a hard question. Why are you really keeping this secret? Is it truly for them? Or is it for you? Because in my experience, when we say, I'm protecting them, we usually mean, I'm protecting myself from their reaction. There are very, very few secrets that actually protect people. Most of them just protect us from accountability. Margaret deserved to know the truth about our marriage. She deserved the chance to decide if she wanted to stay. She deserved to understand why there was sometimes distance between us by keeping the secret. I took all of that away from her. I'm 87 years old now. I don't have many years left. Maybe a handful if I'm lucky. And I have to live with the knowledge that I wasted 43 years. 43 years when Margaret and I could have had complete honesty, complete intimacy, a marriage with no walls. Instead, we're spending our final years trying to rebuild what I damaged. Margaret is trying so hard to trust me again. Some days are better than others. Some days she looks at me and I can see she's remembering the young husband she thought she had, the man she believed she knew completely. Other days she looks at me and I can see the question in her eyes. What else don't I know about you? I did that to her. I put that doubt in her mind. And I can never fully undo it. If I could go back to that day in 1981, when Margaret came home from caring for her mother. If I could go back to that moment in our living room when I decided to keep silent, I would change everything. I would sit her down. I would hold her hands. I would tell her the truth. While you were gone, I developed feelings for someone at work. Nothing happened. I never acted on it. But I need you to know, because I don't want there to be any secrets between us. It would have been hard. She would have been hurt. We would have had to work through it. But we would have worked through it with honesty, with both of us knowing the full truth. And we would have had 43 years to rebuild, rather than just a few years at the end. At first, yes. But then she was gone and at first, she turned to look at me. How long is at first, Tom? A year, 5 years, 10. I don't know. It faded. I can't tell you exactly when. But you never told me. For 43 years, you knew this thing about our marriage, this thing that I didn't know. Every day I believed we were completely honest with each other. Every day I trusted you completely. And every day you knew it wasn't true. I was trying to protect you, I said. Don't. Her voice was sharp now. Don't you dare say you were protecting me. You were protecting yourself, Tom. From my hurt, from my anger, from having to face what you'd done. She was right. Of course she was right. You're right, I said. You're absolutely right. Do you know what hurts most? She was crying now. It's not that you had feelings for someone else. People have feelings. I understand that. What hurts is that you didn't trust me with the truth. You didn't think our marriage was strong enough to survive honesty. I was afraid. Of what? Of losing you. So instead, you let me live a lie. You let me think I knew you completely when I didn't. You took away my choice about whether I wanted to stay in a marriage where you'd had feelings for someone else. I hadn't thought of it that way. But she was right again. By keeping the secret, I'd taken away her agency, her right to make an informed decision about our marriage. Margaret was quiet for a long time. I need to think, she finally said. I can't talk about this right now. I understand. She went to our bedroom and closed the door. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands shaking, my heart breaking. This was what I'd been afraid of for 43 3 years. This hurt in her eyes, this betrayal. But now that it was happening, I realized something. As painful as this was, it was better than the secret. Because at least now, we were dealing with the truth. At least now, there were no more walls between us. Even if it destroyed everything, at least it was real. Margaret didn't speak to me for 3 days. She stayed in our bedroom. Our daughter Elizabeth came over, and Margaret talked to her for hours. I don't know what she said. Elizabeth looked at me differently when she left. On the 4th day, Margaret came out. She looked exhausted, like she'd aged years in those 3 days. "Sit down," she said. "We need to talk." I sat. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might give out right there. "I've been trying to understand," she said. "Trying to process this. And I keep coming back to one thing." "What?" "All those times over the years when I felt like you were distant. Like there was something between us I couldn't name. I thought it was me. I thought I was imagining things, being paranoid. But I wasn't, was I? There really was something between us. Yes. That's what hurts most, Tom. Not that you had feelings for someone else 43 years ago, but that for 43 years, you let me doubt myself. Let me think the distance was in my head. I also keep thinking about that time," she continued. 1981. I was taking care of my dying mother. I was exhausted, terrified, grieving. And the whole time, I was comforted by the thought of you at home. My faithful husband, my rock. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I remember calling you one night, crying because I was so overwhelmed. And you said all the right things. You said you loved me, that you were proud of me, that we'd get through it together. And the whole time, your heart was somewhere else. I did love you. I do love you. But you weren't fully present. And you let me believe you were. I had no defense. She was right about everything. "I'm sorry," I said. "It was inadequate, but it was all I had. I'm so sorry. I've been married to you for 61 years, Margaret said. And I have to decide now at 75 years old if I even know who you are. You know me. This is the only thing I ever kept from you. Is it? How would I know, Tom? You kept this for 43 years. What else might you be hiding? Nothing. I swear to you, nothing. I want to believe you. But you understand why that's hard for me right now." I did. I absolutely did. "What are you going to do?" I asked. She sighed. "I don't know. I've thought about leaving. Taking some time apart. But we're not 20 years old, Tom. We're not going to start over. This is our life. These are our last years." She looked at me, and her eyes were full of pain. "I don't want to spend what time we have left angry. But I don't know how to not be angry. I don't know how to trust you again." We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Margaret said, "I need you to help me understand. Take me through it. From the beginning. Every detail. I need to know everything if we're going to have any chance of moving forward." So I did. For hours, I told her everything. Every conversation with Diana I could remember. Every thought I'd had. Every moment I'd pulled away from our marriage. Every time over the years I'd almost told her. and didn't. It was excruciating. Watching her face as I described how I'd felt about another woman. Seeing her flinch when I talked about comparing them. But she listened to all of it. "Thank you," she said when I finished, "for finally being honest. I should have done it 43 years ago." Yes, you should have. This beautiful moment, this celebration of honest love, and I was sitting there with my secret. 40 years old by then. 4 decades of hiding. "Are you okay?" Margaret whispered, noticing something in my face. "Just emotional," I said. "Weddings always get to me?" Another lie. A small one, but they'd been adding up for 40 years. I started having nightmares. In them, Margaret would find out somehow. She'd look at me with such betrayal, such hurt. "Why didn't you tell me?" she'd ask. "Why didn't you trust me with the truth?" I'd wake up sweating, my heart racing. "Bad dream," Margaret would murmur, half asleep. "Yeah, go back to sleep." I started thinking about death more, not in a morbid way, just practically. I was in my late 70s. Margaret was 75. We were healthy, but we weren't young. What would happen if one of us died with this secret still between us? If Margaret died never knowing, would that be better? She'd lived a happy life. She believed our marriage was built on complete honesty and trust. Wasn't that a gift, in a way? But if I died first, God, the thought of dying with this inside me, of leaving this world having never been fully honest with the person I loved most. The secret had become a wall between us. Invisible, but real. Margaret couldn't see it, but I felt it every day. Last year, I started getting sick. Nothing dramatic, just the slow decline of an 86-year-old body. I had trouble walking. My memory started failing in small ways. The doctor said it was normal aging, but I knew what he wasn't saying. I was running out of time. Margaret took care of me with such tenderness. She'd help me to the bathroom in the middle of the night, remind me to take my pills, read to me when my eyes got too tired. "We've had a good life, haven't we?" she said one evening, sitting beside my chair. "The best," I said. "No regrets." And there it was, the question I'd been avoiding for 43 years. "No regrets?" I lied. She smiled and kissed my forehead. "Me neither. I'm so grateful for you, Tom, for the life we built together, for your honesty and faithfulness all these years." Each word was a knife. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed beside Margaret, listening to her breathe, and I finally understood something. This secret wasn't protecting her. It never had been. It was protecting me. From her disappointment. From having to face what I'd done. From having to see myself clearly in her eyes. And by protecting myself, I'd robbed us both of something essential. True intimacy, complete honesty, a marriage with no walls between us. Margaret had given me 61 years of her whole heart. Every part of herself, nothing hidden. And I'd given her everything except this one truth. She deserved better. Even if it was 43 years too late, she deserved the truth. I waited until morning. We were having breakfast, oatmeal, the way Margaret makes it with brown sugar and cinnamon. Sunlight was coming through the kitchen window. It was an ordinary moment. the kind we'd shared thousands of times. Margaret, I said, I need to tell you something. She looked up from her bowl. What is it, dear? It's something I should have told you a long time ago. 43 years ago, I saw the confusion in her face. Then something else. Fear, maybe. Like she knew whatever was coming was going to change things. Tom, you're scaring me. I'm sorry. But I can't. I can't die without telling you this. I can't leave you without the truth. And then I told her everything. I told her about Diana, about those 6 weeks when she was caring for her mother, about the feelings I developed, about how I'd pulled away from our marriage emotionally, even though I never touched another woman. I told her about the decision I'd made to keep it secret, how I'd convinced myself I was protecting her. I told her about the 43 years of carrying this, the guilt, the distance it created, the wall between us that she couldn't see, but that I felt every single day. I never stopped loving you, I said, and I was crying now. You have to understand that. But I kept this from you. I let you believe our marriage was something it wasn't. And I'm so... Margaret didn't say anything. She just sat there, her oatmeal getting cold, staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Why now? She finally asked. Her voice was quiet, controlled. Because I'm 87 years old. Because we're not going to live forever. And because you deserve the truth. You've always deserved the truth. 43 years, Tom. I know. 43 years. You let me believe. She couldn't finish. She stood up from the table, walked to the window, stood there with her back to me. Did you love her? She asked. No, it wasn't love. It was infatuation, ego, stupidity. Were you thinking about her when you were with me? All those years?